Students, welcome to this hands-on practical session on the second chapter, that is Python Programming Fundamentals. We have discussed the theoretical concepts in the previous two video lessons, and now we will be discussing their practical aspects and some basic programs, for example, so that you can do the questions that were given in assignment yourself and feel confident in Python programming. So let's start with the keywords. We have shown you the command to print the keywords in Python. To import keyword, then we have keyword.kwlist, so which gives us the list of keywords that are defined in Python, and these keywords cannot be used as identifiers, means they cannot be assigned as a name to any unit in Python. Okay, let us check it. Suppose we give a name like if is a keyword and I assign it a value 10. So I will be getting a syntax error. Okay, because these words have a special meaning to the interpreter. So this word if is bound to have something different from this value. That's why it has given syntax error. Please note that the first three keywords in this list start with the capital case and the rest are all small. Okay, so I have told you that these three are the keywords that start with a capital character, all the others will be in small. So whenever we give a name to a variable, that name is called identifier. Suppose we require a variable x equal to 10. So this x will be called identifier because it identifies something. That's why it is called identifier. Okay. Next we had literals. Literals, let's start with string literal. Suppose I have a variable called x and I assign it a value called Python. Okay, so now you can see the value of x, Python. Okay, I again can use double quotes to Python, and again I can print x. Okay, then again I can assign it a triple quote string. The triple quote string is for multi-line string. We will see it. This is the end. Now the prompt arrives. Okay. Earlier you have seen that the prompt was not coming because we have put the triple quotes. Now we will print the value of x. This is the value. You see how to work with these three types of string literals. One is single quoted, double quoted and triple quoted strings. Okay. Now we have talked about escape sequences. Okay, characters that have backslash in the beginning to suppress its original meaning. So how can we deal with it? Let's have some examples. Okay, let's have some an example of backslash n, that is for new line. So we type hello, then we type backslash n, and then we type Python. Okay, let us see the result. You see that the one word, that is hello, is in first line and Python is in second line. Why so? Because that \n has made it appear in the next line. So this is the use of \n. So we cannot print the new line directly by the keyboard. In the output we cannot type it. So that's why we have a shortcut key to make it printed. That's why these are called escape sequences. Okay, let us have another example where I replace this \n by \t. Okay, and I just delete this space also and this one also. Let us see the result. \t was for tab, and you can see the tab between hello and Python. These are 4 spaces that have been used between hello and Python. So whenever you want to use some special characters of Python that convey special meaning to the Python interpreter, but you do not want to use their special meaning, so to suppress their special meaning, \/ is used and it suppresses its original meaning. Okay, so this is called escape sequence. The characters, the non-graphic characters that cannot be directly printed from the keyboard and are preceded with \/ sign are called escape sequences. This can be a question in your exams also. Okay, now let us have a look at Boolean literals. Boolean literals are true and false. You can have like this, x equal to true. You can see that the special ones change the color. You see that color of true is different from the color of x. So this is the by default view of the IDLE. So to make you understand using just a view that it's a keyword. Okay, so it has become, the color has changed. Similarly, you can write x equal to false. You can see the color is changing. This is black and now the color will change when I type E. Okay, the color has changed. That means it is keyword. Okay, so in string you have in Boolean literals you have 2 values, true and false. I also told you that if you put this one in a single quote, it will be treated as string. Okay, these are 2 different things. Okay, x equal to single quote 1, that is a character, while x is equal to 1 is integer value. Okay, so you must be aware about the difference that are there. Now after Boolean literal we have a special literal called none. So how you use it? We can, if you do not want to put any value in x but want to use x, then it is x equal to none. You can see the change of color. Then you will try to print this x, it will give as none. N is capital. Okay, so this is different. This small n, o n e, it is different. If we say none is not defined, because the first character of none is n, that is capital. It should be capital. Okay, now we move towards commits. So there are 2 types of command. Number 1 is single line command that starts with hash. Welcome to Python programming. This is a statement, and compiler, the Python interpreter will do nothing, because it sees that it checks that hash sign and it understands that this is a commit. It is just for the programmer or the reader to understand, not for that interpreter. So it escapes reading it. Okay, similarly we can have multi-line comment like this. Okay, multi-line comment This is treated as string, but in when we write a program, we will use as a multi-line comment. Okay. I have this program made. So here you can see the use of multi-line comment, these three here, and these are ending here. So the color changes to green. So these lines will not be executed by the Python interpreter. Okay. So that's how we use multi-line comment. Clear? Okay. Now, next we use the indentation. Okay. For this, I will show you through the program only, that how we use indentation. Let us go to that. Let us open this function, and I will make this whole thing as comment. Okay, now we will check the use of indentation. I write x equal to 10. X equal to 10. When I press enter, I just press a tab, and then I write y equal to 20. I am in script mode, you know it. So when I save it, I try to run it, it will just give me error, unexpected indentation. Okay, that's why I have told you that all the lines that are without colon must be at a same indentation level. So when we will study in the coming sessions about the if block, for block, while block, and after in class 12th you will be reading about functions. Like I have this in this example, this is for class 12th. This is a function that is followed by colon sign, and then automatically 4 indentation spaces are added, and all these lines are at the same indentation level. It means that these 3 lines belong to this function, and now these 3 are in the same indentation level. This means they belong to same level. Okay, so this is the example of indentation. If you provide unexpected indentation, it will give error. Okay, so you should be clear about indentation, and should be very cautious while using any space. A single space also will create error. Let us check. I have given a single space and I will run it. It will give me unexpected indent. What happens that in your when you write the programs in your notebook, there is no interpreter running in the background to check your spaces. So you write without space or with space, it doesn't create any difference. But the same thing when you type on the editor, it will create problem. So you must be aware that you should be writing all those code lines just at the same level. Okay, same indentation. No extra indentation should be given by you while writing in the notebook also, because the same practice you will carry on to your examinations. Okay, so practice whenever you write a program, all the lines should be in a same indentation level until a new block arrives. If a new block is there, then there will be a next new indentation level. Okay, now let us check about the use of the 3 parameters associated with a variable. Suppose we are writing a statement x equal to 10. This is a statement. I have told you that there are 3 parameters associated with each object. So x is a object. Let us check all its 3 components. First one was value. How to check the value of a variable? That we have print function. We can check the value of x. The second was type. We have a type function that can check the type of x. The type of x is integer. Everything is based on class because it is an object oriented language. All the things are related to classes. Okay, so it belongs to int class, that is the data type of x is integer. Now we check the id. Id means the address to which x is pointing. So for that we have id function, id of x. This is the memory address of the value that is pointed by x. Okay. Now I have told you that in Python variables are not storage containers. How can we prove that? We can prove that using some statements. Suppose we are creating y is equal to 10 and z equal to 10. Now we have all the three variables with having value 10. What we will do is we will check the IDs of all these three. ID of x, comma y, comma z. Sorry. ID takes only one argument. ID of x, this one. ID of y is this. ID of z is this. So you can see here that all the three IDs are same. That means x, y, z are pointing to the same memory location where the value 10 is stored. Okay, it signifies that the variables are not provided any memory space. They are just references, whereas the value is the main thing that is stored. Suppose I change the value of z to 20. Now we will check the ID of z again and we will find that the ID has changed, but the ID of x will not change. It will remain same until we change its value. ID of y will remain same. Okay, so that's how we check that the variables in Python are not storage containers. Then we come to the concept of L value and R value. The statement that we have wrote that x is equal to 10. Here x is L value and 10 is R value. So at the right hand side there can be a literal or an expression. We could have written like this. This is also valid. So at the right hand side we can have a literal, that is a single value, or an expression like 10 plus 20, or we can also have like this. Here the z is L value and the remaining x plus y becomes expression. The expression that uses some L value components, that is x and y. Or we could have write this. Now you can see here in this statement x is equal to 10 plus 20, x was L value. Now z is equal to x. This x was some L value here. Now z is L value. So L value can be there in the right hand side, but R value cannot be in the left hand side. How? Let us check. We cannot write like this. X plus y equal to z. This is invalid. Okay. So z cannot be stored to x plus y. X plus y can be stored in z. So this z is equal to x plus y is valid, but x plus y equal to z is invalid. Similarly, x equal to 10 is valid, but 10 equal to x is invalid. So a literal or an expression cannot be on the left hand side. So this is the concept of L value and R value. Now the next concept is dynamic typing. Okay, let us see the example. X equal to 10 and we check the type of x. It shows us integer. Very good. Now we check x equal to 12.6 and then again we check type of x. it says float. Okay, then again we say x equal to India. Again check the type of x. Now it become string. Wow, this is dynamic typing. The same variable can point to different data types. First it is pointing to integer, then it has pointed to a float, and at the third step, it is pointing to a string. So this is dynamic typing. Okay, so the rest of concepts we will be seeing through an example, the programming example. The things that are remaining, the first thing that is remaining is use of input function. Okay, so input function is used to get the values from the user. How? Suppose we want to get the age of the user. So what we will have a variable first. So suppose I take a variable called age, and in this variable I will be storing the value that will be given by the user. So I will use the input function, and in the input function, this is the prompt. Now I will write the message. So you must give the message, and the message should be proper so that the user can understand what he has to input. Okay, so what will be the message? The message can be changed. There is no fixed rule here, but you should be giving a proper message. So I will give the message like enter your age, so that the user is able to understand what he has to give. Okay, so this is the input function. Now what will be the processing of it? When the user will enter the age, that age will be saved in the variable called age, and then we have printed the age. And again, one thing that we will print is print type of age. The variable type we should print. Let us see. Let us save it using Ctrl S, and by using F5 we will run it. Okay, let us close this and have a new prompt. Let us run again, pressing F5, and then it will ask me to enter age. Suppose I write 23, and when I press enter, you can see the value 23 has been accepted by the input function and stored in a variable age. Then we have printed the age, and the main thing that you have to focus on is the type of age, that is string. Okay, but you had thought that the age will be integer, but the rule is whenever you input or print, whenever you use the input function or print function, it is treated as string. Clear? So how do we convert it? So we will be converting it using a function called int, and if you have to change it into float, then we have a function called float. So we will use a function called int, and inside int we will put that input function. So what will happen? The value of input function, that will be a string, will be passed to the int function, that it will convert to it in integer, and then it will be stored in age. Okay, let us run the program. Let us give the same. Now you can see the difference. Clear? So it is the difference that the input function and the print function uses the objects in string format only, but you can change the input format to int or float using the respective functions. Suppose I give here float, then it will change into float. Save it and run it. I will give the value same. Now it has given me 23.0, and the class of this variable is float. Okay. Next thing we will be covering is we can separate the statements by semicolon in a single line. Suppose we are writing that x equal to 10 semicolon y equal to 20 semicolon z equal to 30. It can be written in a single line, but I am again telling you that it is not advised. Okay, you should be using separate lines. So it is allowed. Okay, you can check the values of x, y and z. I think you know the syntax of print statement. If not, you can go to the previous practical session and there you will be able to find the working of print and all its arguments. Okay, you can see we have the values. So this separating the statements by a semicolon in a single line is allowed, but it is not advisable to use it because it does not look good while you write. You should be writing like this, one statement in one line, then press enter, because enter is the key that is understood by the interpreter as the end of input. Okay, so we have checked all the concepts that have been discussed in this previous videos. Now we will be coming to some examples of programming. Let us have a simple program. The simplest program is to add two numbers. Okay, so whenever you are given a program, you should be thinking of three things. First input, then processing, then output. So when I hear the question that I have to find the sum of two numbers, in my mind I calculate that I have two input. Those are the two numbers and one output, that is the sum of those two numbers, and I will add them just by a single line. So what I will do is I will take two variables as input. That can be, the name can be given as AB or XY. Okay, so I give a variable A and I have to input the value from the user, so I will use input function and I will write the message, enter the first number. Then I again call the input function for B, enter the second number. You should not be miser in writing a good message, because a good message will remove all the chances of any wrong input. Okay, we will give a message, input, enter the second number. Now I have the input. Now I go to second phase, that is processing phase. In this phase I will be creating a third variable called C and I will add the two variables A and B in it. This is my processing statement, and at the end I will print this value. So here I want to share the type of this print statement that we have discussed in the, it is different from the types that we have discussed in the earlier practical video. Here we will be combining two things. One object will be a message and another will be a value. Okay, so here I will write the result is, so this is one object, so this is a string object, so that's why it is enclosed in quotes. And you know that in a print statement all the objects are separated using comma. So I will put a comma and the next object I have to print is C. Okay, so I will use this. I will save it using Ctrl S and I will run it. It will ask me for the first number, it will ask me for the second number, and then it will be, oh, you can see the result here. The result says a lot, that 1020, because why is the result like this? Because, can you tell me the answer? I think many of you have understood the reason, that 10 and 20 has been taken as string. That's why the string has been added. When the string is added, it is just concatenated, add one after another. That's why the result is not as per our expectation. So what wrong is done is we have not converted it into int. So we will be using this int. Okay, now this thing will be okay. 10, 20. the result is 30. Okay, so that's how you learn programming. Okay, when you get an error, then you can see, oh my god, I have just made a mistake here. So whenever you want to get something, it will be taken as string, and according to your requirement you can change it into integer or float. Okay, then these are the two statements for input phase, this for processing phase, and here is the last phase, output phase. Okay, so that's how you make a program, simple program without any blocks. All the statements are in a same indentation level, so it is a same block. Okay, so this was the first program, adding two numbers. Let us have a new program, a to the power b, without using any logic, just using the operator. I have discussed at the end of the previous video that we have an operator for power, that is double star. So if we want to raise the a raised to the power b, then we will use a double star b. Okay, let us save it and run it. Let us enter 2 as a and 3 as a second, and we get the result as 8. So the thing we discussed at the end was power operator. Double star means power, x to the power n or a to the power b. Okay, so that's how you write the program. Okay, so please try to understand. So whenever you have a question, any type of question, just after reading the program, try to identify the number of inputs and number of outputs. And in Python, you are so fortunate that you do not have to worry about its type. Python will take care about its type. Okay, you have to just take care about this, changing the type of input if you require it. Then you should concentrate on the processing, how to process it, and at the end, using print statement, you can print the result. While printing the result, you can see that the print statement is a versatile statement. It can just give you the value of c. If you just write like this, print c, it will just print the value of c. If you will write print welcome in double quotes, it will just print welcome. But if you want to combine both of them, then you can do the same. How can you do it? This is the way. Print, you can give a message, then you can give a value, and again you can combine any combination. You can again have this message. You can have a message like this. Okay, so any values can be combined. A message with a value, then followed by a message, or a value then message then value. Anything can be combined. Okay, let us run it again, and you will see the difference. This is the difference. Okay, so 2, 3, and the result is 8, and after that again the message has been printed. So this print statement and input statement will be with you forever until you are using this Python programming language. So you must be knowing all its types. So the types with input is input function followed by a message. Here the only variant is of the message. So you should provide a proper message, so that the user gets the actual idea what he has to give. So after getting it, it will be taken as a string. So if you are entering a name or like this, then it should not be changed into anything. But if you want to get an integer or a float, then you should change it using the int function or float function. Then the processing, that is whole of your side, that is you have to apply your mind to design the logic. No one can tell you the logic. You have to think and then design the logic. That how logic means the way to solve a problem is called logic. So you have to identify how I am going to solve the problem. So I have solved this problem using the power operator, and at the end you will be using a print statement to print the result. So whenever you input something or print something, try to use proper messages. Okay, don't use shortcuts. Take your time to give proper messages, because this is a good programming practice. If you skip this thing at the beginning, then you will not be able to do it at when you are required to do it. So this should be your practice from the beginning only. Okay, so it should be in your programming blood that you should give proper messages in input section also and in output section also. Okay, so here we come to the end of this programming lesson. Here we have discussed all the practical aspects of this second chapter, that was Python programming fundamentals. Okay, I think I have made all the points clear using those theoretical lessons and this hands-on practical exercise. You can try these exercises. If you have a computer, then you can download those IDLEs from the Python website. If you are not aware about the process, you can go back to the previous practical video and you can see how to install it and how to use that IDLE. Okay, and then and if you are having a smartphone having Android, then you should download PyDroid 3. There is an app available at a Play Store and you can run the programs in your mobile also. Okay, so practice is the key for programming. The more you practice, the more efficient your foundation of programming will become. Try to solve all those programs that were given to you as assignment in the previous video and the theoretical question also. And if you have any problem, you can get back to me through a comment section. I will try to help you out. Okay, so that's all for today. Have a nice day, have a nice time, and have a great Python foundation. Thank you very much.